Okay, so this is going to be a quick video on the next part of the business plan, which is to think about legal considerations. And this is to show that you've kind of started to really reflect on your business idea and sort of research the implications that it might have and things like that, essentially. So if we look down here, it says discuss and mind map how the law could affect your business idea, essentially. So we're really thinking about sort of the law and things that we need to consider. So if we move on to this, basically what you need to do for this part of the assignment is on your website, add a blog post researching how the law could affect your business. So this is going to be different for each of you depending on what kind of idea you've got. But there are some general sort of areas where you'll be affected. So if you're doing anything involving the public or people, then you really should consider having public liability insurance. So if you're a band and you go out and you gig and you're doing weddings, stuff like that, and you set up some equipment and someone falls over because they tripped over some of your equipment you left out, they might want to sue you if they've suddenly lost work and things like that because of their injury. So you need something called public liability insurance. And if you're going into other people's homes or they're coming into your home, you'll still need this to protect yourselves. So if you go and search for public liability insurance, we get loads of Google ads. But if we go down, and it's not that expensive either, then you could have a look into public liability insurance and see what it's all about, essentially. And loads of kind of industries have this. Like if you're a builder and you go to someone's house, you need this and other insurances and stuff like that. So you see this pictures of builder and things. So you see it insures you up to £5 million protection. Legal defence costs is, say if they do take you to court because they want to sue you, you've got to maybe hire a solicitor and things like that. So they'll cover those costs for you. Temporary staff, if you need to cover temporary staff for you. What else have we got here? £250 compensation per day you have to go to court. So pretty good. So public liability insurance is something that everyone needs. If you play in a band, you need it. If you play, if you're setting up something where you're going out and setting up equipment, you'll definitely need it. You need it for so many things, and there's Q&A and stuff like that on here. So that is one area that you could look into, is public liability insurance for nearly any type of business idea. You're going to need it if you're teaching. You're going to need it because you're going to be meeting up with them and things like that. I would have thought. Probably the only area you might not need it is if you're just solely doing things online and you're not actually physically going to be near people, essentially. So, or the public. The next thing to consider is copyright. So if you're doing anything to do with original music or material and things like that, you might need to think about this. So if you're going to launch yourself as a label, then you might want to think about how does the copyright work, look into that a little bit. But also you would need to think about how the copyright works if you're going into songwriting. What happens if you work with another songwriter, things like that. So looking at, like we looked at in contracts, the co-writing agreements and things like that to divide up copyright between you and the other people. And licensing. So there's a few different types of licensing. 1 year, well, quite common actually. Students have decided that they wanted to kind of like set up a venue, essentially. So you need to look into alcohol licensing. So if we go onto the government website, so we're on gov.uk, and you search for alcohol licensing, then you can find out about alcohol licensing, essentially. So you need a premise license for that, and this kind of explains to you about the road to kind of go and get one of those. So yeah, you would need to sort of look into licensing and things like that. But other types of licensing as well. So for instance, if your business was going to use other people's music, you would need to license it from them. So you need to think about how you kind of do that. And there are obviously other things to consider in terms of the law and how it might affect your business. So basically what you need to do is do a blog post where you discuss kind of 3 or 4 things maybe about how your business idea could work with, within the law, and what kind of things you would need to be aware of. If you're going to sell products online, then there's quite a lot of rules around what you can sell and kind of quality sort of stamps and things like that that you kind of need to look into essentially. Um, if you're going to kind of sell a product that is in any way using any sort of trademark of another company, then you're going to need to look into copywriting it and probably getting a license and things like that. So do a blog post researching how you think the law could affect your business, or your business could kind of, what are going to be some of the issues that you might need to think about.